a lot has changed. I'm definitely more knowledgeable taking care of her. And I know that anytime I need advice or help from somebody, I can just call her.
It's just that little positive nudge to, hey, I'm noticing something, let's find a way how to change it. And she's like, you know what, Amanda, let's pick you up, dust you off, and let's go over to, see about either getting your driver's license or seeing about, going to college, see if we can start something for you.
It's totally worth it. Like, even if you're on the fence at first, you don't feel like having a stranger coming in your house and teaching you about your little one, do it anyway. You get the help that you need. You get professional advice on things you may not know about your child. And the fact that the program has no fees or anything, it's all totally free, is fantastic.
Yo creo que si conozco a alguien que está próxima a ser mamá, lo primero que haría sería recomendarle el programa porque te entrega mucho apoyo, mucha información y más que nada como apoyo emocional, una guía, te da una visión diferente de cómo es ser papá aquí, quizás en este país.
Y así pues es un bonito programa, porque pues es buena persona la señora y los ha atendido muy bien.
Pensé que nada más iba a ser un programa de orientación quizás para los nuevos padres, pero creo que nos llevamos una linda sorpresa porque Gaby es una persona muy cercana a nosotros, es como parte de nuestra familia, siempre ha estado dispuesta a ayudarnos y a escucharnos con nuestras dudas sobre la paternidad, y en nuestro caso, que estamos solos en este país, ha sido como de mucha ayuda.
Es un gran apoyo para nuevos padres, y más aún si están en nuestra situación, que somos extranjeros, que nuestra familia y amigos, como dice Carla, están en otro país, lejos. Entonces sí, viene muy bien el programa para apoyarse tanto emocional y como anímicamente, y bueno, en varios aspectos del programa, que nos ayuda a seguir adelante con esta nueva aventura.
Te ayuda como
Today's meeting is a hybrid meeting of the Planning Commission with participants both in person and digitally. The public may participate digitally in meetings by sending comments to pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.gov or orally via telecomment in lieu of personal attendance. All public comment will be made available to the commissioners, staff, and the general public after processing by staff and can be viewed as attachments to this meeting agenda on the Planning Commission agenda page. Madam Clerk, would you please conduct a roll?
Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Purnell,
here.
Chair Pollen.
Here.
And for the record, Commissioner Babini and Commissioner Wiedemann are absent by prearrangement.
Thank you very much. Moving on, agenda item number 2, do we have determination of legal notice?
All items on the agenda have been properly noticed.
Very much. Next item is the director's report. Director, do you have a report for us?
Good morning, Julian Krog, Planning and Building Services Director. So I have a really brief report. We have a couple recruitments that are out right now for our department, one for a planner position and the other for a code enforcement officer. So any interested candidates, please go onto the county website and apply. And then in addition, I want to let you know that we have received what we hope is the last draft of the Inland Zoning Code update. So we expect that to be forthcoming to the commission in the not too distant future. So I would guess that it would come before you in the next 2 months. And we will, of course, be reaching out about scheduling for that. We're picturing that we may request some special meetings be done at the commission, just so that way you don't have 2 weeks going in between each one of the reviews, and that way it's fresh in your mind. That might be just that we ask for a meeting to happen on the in-between week, or we may see if you're interested in doing a couple days in a row or something. But we'll do some reach out for scheduling with you. And that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners? Great. Any public comments on the director's report? Okay. On.
Oh, I do have a hand raised from
right.
Amy Wynn.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Nguyen.
Hi, thank you, Chair and fellow commissioners, Director Krog. Thank you for the LCP report update. I just have one item that I'd like for the commissioners to be aware of, which is the Coastal Commission letter that they wrote to the Board of Supervisors about the emergency ordinance that allowed in the coastal zone, that the county presented, that allowed for wildfire resistance, maintenance, and energy independence. So removal of dead and dying trees in proximity to homes and vehicles, as well as being able to install solar panels on your roof, energy independence, and for times when the power goes out. And I would like for the commissioners to start thinking about that with the LCP update, but there also might be a need to actually have a small LCP update or amendment sooner rather than later. Since it's going to take us a long time to get to the full LCP update, we're going to probably need to be able to maintain our properties for wildfire management, wildfire resilience rather sooner rather than later. So thank you for hearing me.
Okay, thank you very much. Just for future reference, I was asking for public comment on the director's report. I imagine what you just said was sort of intended as public expression. Is that correct?
No, actually it was intended, I guess it was intended on the director's report as an LCP update item, but wanting to maybe have it be pulled out to a little sooner.
Okay,
sooner in the
great. But we also are going to have a full presentation on the LCP update later in the agenda. Okay, well, thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
My apologies.
No problem. All right, moving on. Any other comments from the public on the director's report?
No other comments off Zoom.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item number 4, matters from the public expression. Members of the public are welcome to address the Planning Commission on items not listed on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is prohibited by law from taking action on matters not on the agenda. Individuals wishing to address the Planning Commission under matters from the public may do so in person, via email, or Zoom. If any members of the public logged into the Zoom meeting wish to speak under public expression, please use the raise hand feature to allow staff to add you to the meeting. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests for telecomment under public expression?
There are no raised hands on Zoom.
Oh, and we didn't receive any emails or other telecomment?
All the telecomments that we received have been posted onto the website.
Thank you. Any members in the room wishing to speak under public expression? All right, seeing none, I will close the public expression period. Moving on, agenda item number 5, consent calendar. We have the approval of the Planning Commission meeting minutes from April 4th and May 2nd, 2024.
I'd like to move that we approve the meeting minutes from April 4th and May 2nd, 2024.
If we can do them both together, then I will second that motion.
Can and we will. All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Purnell?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, thank you. Is there any public comment on the minutes from those meetings?
No members on Zoom.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, and anyone in the room? All right, very well then. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Purnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Chair Pollin?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, moving on. Agenda item number 6A of the regular calendar. This is item number U_2023-0002/B_2023-0001, the Albion Little River Fire Protection District. This is a coastal development use permit and coastal boundary line adjustment at the existing Albion Little River Fire Protection Department. Coastal Development Use Permit to construct Phase 1, new apparatus building, and Phase 2, remove existing apparatus building and construct a new administrative building to serve ALRFPD. Coastal boundary line adjustment to merge 7 existing legal parcels into one legal parcel of 1.8 acres. I'll now open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, has there been any correspondence or telephone calls received?
All correspondence have been posted to the website.
Thank you. I'll now ask for the staff presentation on this item, please.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Goins. I'm the staff planner for this project, and I have a little presentation for you. I'm going to share a screen. Just going to jump right into it. Okay. I don't want to repeat what you said. This is a coastal boundary line use permit. The purpose is to enhance operational capabilities for the fire department, and it's going to consist of 2 phases. Phase 1 will construct a new apparatus building. Phase 2 will be demolition of the existing apparatus building and erect a new administrative building. And the other part of this will be the boundary line adjustment. And this will merge 7 underlying parcels into one single parcel that will be approximately 1.81. The location and configuration. This is in the coastal zone within the rural village zoning district within the Albion Town Center, about 425 feet northeast of the intersection with Albion Ridge Road and State Route 1, located at 33870 Albion Little River. I'm not sure exactly, there's 2 addresses, and I'm not sure which one they actually use, but Albion Little River South Side Road and 33900 West Street. And this is where this is the current apparatus building and the current configuration, what you would see if you went onto the GIS. But a certificate of compliance was done to show that there are 7 parcels on this property. But regardless, these all being merged anyway to one legal lot. It's just information for you. This is what it will look like afterward. The parcel lines will be completely erased and will just be the red line you see here outlining the parcel. The new apparatus building will sit approximately over here. Well, probably not approximately. Will sit right there. The administrative building will sit where the current apparatus building sits. This is the purple is the current apparatus. This project is in the highly scenic area, and it requires special attention to visual impacts. The design and location of the structures have been planned to preserve the public views, especially to the ocean. Building materials and colors were chosen to blend in with the surrounding area while fulfilling functional requirements of a fire station. And certain measurements include landscaping and downcast shield lighting to minimize visual disturbance, especially at night. This is a 3D representation of the apparatus building on the left here, and on the right is the administrative building. Both very, very pretty buildings. This is a visual overlay looking north and south. So the one on the left is you are looking north, but you are south of Albion Ridge Road right here. And the apparatus building is on the left, and the administrative building is on the right. And I think it does a pretty good job of blending in the area right there. The visual overlay looking south is looking south from the Albion Bridge. And you can see the apparatus building on the right, and administrative building on a mitigated negative declaration was completed to ensure impacts would be less than significant with conditions. A bio report was provided by WRA that shows no offsetting mitigations are required. CDFW recommended symbolic fencing be placed at the 20-foot mark to deter any accidental entrance to the wetland. And symbolic fencing has been added as a condition. And you can see up here in the upper right-hand corner sort of setbacks. And the yellow mark here is the line that CDFW is comfortable with everything that is in the area, they're okay with as long as it stays out of that symbolic fencing. It's like a little 3.5-foot fence, split rail fence. It's not really to keep, you can just step over it if you wanted to, but it's just a way to keep people from accidentally drive on it or anything.
Okay.
So zoning consistency, the scale and development is consistent with the neighborhood to some degree, I would say. Public and semi-public facilities are allowed conditionally. Project improvements to fire district facilities are permissible with a coastal development use permit, which is what structures comply with setback distances and height restrictions. Impervious surfaces are within permitted limits, a lot of the asphalt and stuff like that, but it's not too much. Lot coverage will not be an issue, especially after they merge the lots together. And accessory project elements will include the relocation of a fence, the water tank, storage buildings, driveways, utilities. And these elements are all considered incidental accessory use, civic use. And staff believes this project will significantly enhance the environmental efficiency of enhance the operational efficiency of the fire department and better serve the community's safety needs. The proposal aligns with the zoning requirements and has been designed to minimize environmental impacts and preserve the area's visual integrity. Staff is recommending adoption of the resolution and the MND and approve the project with the recommended conditions. However, there is a memo that was sent this morning that we made some revisions that we revised again. Russ is going to share his screen. And you can see the red line that we took out.
Good morning, Russ Ford, Senior Planner. The memo that came out this morning just had an amendment to, it said one of the conditions of approval. The goal was to remove the reference to the number of employees that are allowed to be on shift. Further review shows that that text was actually in one of the findings, so it's been again modified to the red line that's on the screen, where the maximum number of employees working any one shift would be 3, has been struck from that paragraph and omitted as one of the findings. And with that, staff is recommending approval, and we're available for questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from commissioners to staff on their presentation?
I guess I just have one, and that is looking at the visual. It doesn't seem like anything done from up Albion River Ridge Road. All you really have is existing, and I mean, I understand that it's fine, but it's a little bit taller. Anyway, it's fine. Noticing that.
Great. Nothing from you, Commissioner, for now? Much. And I don't have any questions for staff either. I will now invite the applicant to present on this project. Do you have a representative from the applicant?
Instead, I'm the Vice President of the Albion Little River Fire Protection Board of Directors.
Can you just, we can hear you fine, but for
Okay.
people that are not in the room, you have to make sure you speak right into the microphone.
Okay.
Thank you.
I start again, or?
Sure.
Okay. Pam Lindstedt, I'm the Vice President of the Albion Little River Fire Protection District Board of Directors, and with me today is Fire Chief Michael Reese. 2 other members of our building committee couldn't be here, Lee Welty, a retired civil engineer, and Diana Wiedemann, our architect. The Albion Little River Fire Protection District has been in need of a fire station for over 25 years. The fire district in 2018 purchased the several parcels you saw on the map to have a centrally located fire station in Albion. Our building committee has been working diligently for the past 3 years on this proposal. We're very happy that it's being reviewed today. We've discussed our building plans with other emergency response agencies such as the Sheriff's Office, CAL FIRE, CHP, and ambulance services, as well as had several community meetings to garner support for our fire station. The new centrally located fire station will improve our efficiency and effectiveness of operations and also allow for collaborative trainings and community outreach and education meetings. This new fire station is designed to meet today's fire safety requirements as well as facilitate needs of staffing and training needs in the future. As emergency response activities have increased for more than 30% over the past decade and will continue to increase due to our aging population and increasing vehicular traffic and climate change, it's imperative that we obtain this permit and get started on a new fire station. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant from the commission?
I have one. Can you just clarify to the public that the water tanks will be undergrounded, because there were some people who sent letters in that sounds like there was some confusion about that?
Yes, so there are 3 tanks that the Albion Mutual Water Company was concerned about, and they are, not only are they located low on the slope for less visual influence, but they're also burial tanks. So those 3 tanks will be buried. And we did receive a letter that I will give you that I don't think made to public record, but the Albion Mutual Water Company said they did get our information as far as the tanks and our water usage, and we're in support of our project. So I'd like to hand that to you now, if that's all right. One other concern that came up from one of the letters was perhaps not as much community notice, and I'd just like to add that we did due diligence in sending a mailer out to the entire direct mail of all residents in our fire district, and had those 3 separate community meetings to try and reach everybody. And so I'm going to hand you the flyer that was part of that mailing, as well as a schematic handout that occurred at the meeting and was available in the post office and at the fire station, and was also posted on our website. I don't know if I should give these items to
the clerk. Deputy County Counsel, how do we make sure that these items are part of the public record?
I was hoping we might have the letter from the water company read aloud, because I think that might address one of the questions. Is that something you can do, Chair?
I'm happy to,
Okay,
if that's appropriate.
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski, I think some of these are in the list of comments online as well. I'm going to confirm that with Ms. Krog, so we can even bring it up on the screen if you'd like.
Okay. Is this newest letter part of the public record already?
The one dated May 6th?
yes, it should be May 6th.
Yes, May 6th.
Yes, it's posted to the website
Okay.
underneath
Chalian?
Chalian. Yes, I wanted to make sure I pronounced the name correctly. So it's the second to last public comment on the website.
Great.
And I'd also like to allow Fire Chief Michael Reese to say a few words, if that's okay.
Sure. Commissioner Pronell, do you still want me to read this letter in, or if it's been, are you comfortable there?
I'm comfortable with it. I just want to make sure I'm seeing the same thing that you are, dated May 6th from the Albion Mutual Water Company, signed by 5 individuals at the bottom.
That's correct.
Perfect, thank you.
And staff has placed it up on the screen if you'd like to verify. Yeah.
Looks like the same one. Great. If you'd like to have your chief present, please.
Good morning, Michael Reese, Fire Chief, Albion Little River. Pam pretty much covered everything. I just want to speak to the need of the fire station operationally. For the past 6 decades, we've pretty much been working out of sheds and garages, and a network of sheds and garages throughout the district. And with our increasing call volume, acquisition of modern firefighting equipment, training standards, and current health and safety regulations that we now need to live under, we've completely outgrown the facilities we have currently. So the building committee and the fire district have worked really hard over the past few years to come up with a plan that would appropriately fit our community and our fire district, as well as create an anchor that an anchor for a centralized meeting location for the community, which we lack at this point. She pretty much covered it all. Not only will this new facility better protect our community, but it will also better protect the firefighters who are serving the community. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move on then unless there's any questions for the applicant. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on then to public comment. Public comment. When called to speak, please state your name for the record. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Speakers are asked to please address their comments with the meeting chair and refrain from using profanity or engaging in conversation with members of the audience or staff. Do we have anybody in the room? On up.
I'm Steve Acker. I'm on the board of the Albion Little River Fire Protection District, and I'm the board secretary. And I've been on the board through the acquisition of the property, which well obviously key to making this project happen. And I think Pam and Michael pretty much covered various things, and I encourage you to approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Acker. Anyone else in the room? All right. Do we have anyone on Zoom who has indicated that they would like to speak on this item?
There are no raised hands on Zoom.
Okay. All right, then. I will then close the public comment. Staff, do you have any final remarks on this item?
Nope.
Okay, great. Any final remarks from the applicant? Great. Now, do we have any commissioners who would like to?
Sure. I'd like to say that it's a nice looking design and building, and it seems that you've located in a way to reduce impacts to environmental resources and scenic resources, and I support the project.
Commissioner Purnell, anything?
And I echo everything Commissioner Jones said, and also just being from a small rural community myself, I know what a big deal this is for the community, how exciting, but also how vitally important it is for public safety. And this is so exciting because it's really a once in several generation opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to voting in support of this.
Thank you. All right, well then if there's no other comments from the commission, I will close the public hearing, and the matter is now before the commission, and public comment is no longer permitted. Is there any further discussion? And if not, I will invite a motion.
Sure, I'd be happy to make a motion unless you want to do it. Okay. It's always, where is it in the agenda? Where is that damn resolution? And I probably should have had it up before I started saying anything. It's at the very end.
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski. There is a recommended motion on page 12 of the agenda, of the packet.
Good, thank you. So pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 20.532 and Chapter 20.536 of the Mendocino County Code, I move that we adopt the mitigated negative declaration and approve the proposed subject project subject to the findings and conditions contained in Resolution in Exhibit A as amended here at the meeting. Am I not trying to?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Purnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Chair Pollin?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you for driving over the hill, and good luck with it all. Very welcome. All right, there's been a request from the director that we take a 10-minute break so that we can get prepared for the presentation that we're about to receive. So we will reconvene at 10:10.
Es que las familias estén bien, y que las familias estén bien significan niños felices, niños sanos, y eso en un futuro es adultos sanos y un mundo mejor. Entonces está bueno.
She has made me feel like I'm important and I can go at my own pace, and that's all you need sometimes when you're feeling like you got nobody.
It was helpful to have somebody there kind of holding my hand and guiding me and letting me know this is kind of the normal. It felt like I was becoming a new mom, so it was very interesting and helpful, very, very helpful.
You know, there was that self-conscious part of me, like, will I be accepted even though I'm not perfect?
What I like the most is that she really listens.
The support that she gives me is special because she does it with love, and it's just natural, you know? That's all I could say. It just feels like somebody that I've known since I was little.
You know, I said to Jeanette, Jeanette, you're supposed to be with me for 5 years. Jeanette said, yeah, I know, I'm going to be with you guys for 5 years. That's when I said, well, I guess I can trust her. She's going to be with us for 5 years.
Yo creo que quizás pasó como a la segunda visita o algo así, como que ya nos presentamos formalmente. Y luego ya creo que en la segunda visita estaba como todo más tranquilo, como muy, como que el ambiente era muy familiar. Entonces yo me sentí muy cómoda.
Felt like she cared for Sparrow too, and Sparrow really enjoyed it. Yeah, she knew when Gabby came we were going to be making something or learning something, and she'd instantly start digging through Gabby's bags to find out what activity we were going to do.
Not only did we get the assistance with this program, but we also made a really good friend. I'm happy to call Gabby our friend.
I think the relationship that we've built has been just, she's a part of the family.
Are you prepared? We're the Office of Emergency Services, and we're committed to providing the most up-to-date and accurate information so that you and your family can stay safe during an emergency. Visit MendoReady.org. It's our one-stop shop for emergency information. You can sign up for emergency alerts, find your pre-established evacuation zone on our current emergencies map, and find hazard and preparedness information.
Imagine you're faced with a disaster such as a wildfire, and you're ordered to evacuate. I'll bet you wish you had more time in that moment. Now's your chance to buy yourself that time. Sign up for Nixle and Mendo Alerts on our website, MendoReady.org. Do it today.
If you want your family to be as resilient as possible, it's important to take some time today and visit MendoReady.org, where you can look up your pre-established evacuation zones on our current emergencies map. You can also find important tools to help maintain your situational awareness, such as the Alert California wildfire cameras and the Caltrans road conditions cameras. We hope you'll take some time today to prepare so that your family can be Mendo ready. Thank you.
When I first realized that I was gonna be a parent, I was super scared. After 2 or 3 weeks of meeting in the home visiting program, I was totally comfortable with the fact that I was gonna have a baby. Yes, I was still scared, but at the same time, I felt like I had some sense of strength behind me.
If I didn't have those resources that Jeanette provided me, I think it would be harder now.
I got into the program and I realized, like, oh, this is nice. And now look at me, I work at a family resource center with parents and families, all this stuff.
I'm so grateful that I got the opportunity to meet my home visitor, because without her, I think that I would be 10 steps behind from where I'm at right now.
Pero pues aquí pues ya los enseñan un poquito más cosas que uno no sabía, como cómo cuidarla, cómo desarrollarla, cómo educarla, y pues es algo bien, porque pues cosas que yo no sabía, pues ya usted nos las dijo y todo como consejos, y pues muchas cosas que se aprendieron.
I don't know what's normal for a 22-month-old baby or an 18-month-old baby, you know. When we get together, we usually discuss and get some progress made with the baby. It makes me feel comfortable, and I associate my parenting with her, my home visitor, telling me, yeah, this is going great.
So it's nice to know where they're at, what stage they're at for every parent, and also to give, again, your children that head start in education.
If I had any questions with her, just call her up on the phone. You know, it was very relatable, very personal. And, you know, with her getting to know my kids, you know, she got to kind of help guide me along the way. I mean, there were so many cool things that I've learned.
I went from a very like rough type of life. I was homeless, and she was able to help me get into school, and I actually have enough credits to graduate with the business degree right now.
I think I really want to mention just that I'm grateful that I took advantage, because it's something that has put me in touch with my child, or closer to my child and her development.
I want other people and parents to know that the home visiting is not something that you should be afraid of. It's actually something that is needed.
You know, because she's not just here for her, she's here to help with all of it. She helped me create a safe space where I feel comfortable enough to ask for help.
Don't be afraid to take that step. Like, don't be afraid to get help. It's always okay to have extra support.
I would say, give it a try. You got nothing to lose. It's free. There's some perks, you know. They've got some great resources.
Personally, I think everybody could benefit from the home visiting programs.
Stream. Got great, thank you. All right, welcome back, everybody. All right, moving on. Item number 6B. This is a presentation and discussion regarding the county's local coastal program update. Director Krog, would you like the presentation, please?
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. So I have a presentation for you. This was an item that we had talked about a couple months ago and having an update presentation. So I'm going to walk through the presentation here, and then please let me know if you have any questions. You can just stop me on any slide if you want to talk about it then. Might make the most sense rather than going all the way through. So we'll just dive right in. If I can click through the pages. Okay. So I just wanted to talk briefly about the LCP update process. So the first part of this is obviously grant is awarded, and then we're in a pretty heavy administrative process. That's executing the grant agreement, preparing requests for proposals for consultants, and then scoring those proposals, preparing contracts for those selected consultants, including Board of Supervisors approval on those various contracts. Then we're working with those consultants on the technical studies, and that will include some level of stakeholder engagement, but that's really to provide some of the baseline information that we'll be building the LCP update off of, crafting policies and really exploring how we can develop those policies or adjust the policies that we have today. So the policy code and drafting, that will happen largely by staff with some input from those consultants. And again, there'll be opportunity for stakeholder engagement at that time. Then we'll be moving forward to Planning Commission hearings and Board of Supervisors hearings on the draft LCP amendment application. Ultimately, the Board of Supervisors would adopt a resolution authorizing our submittal to the Coastal Commission of that application for LCP amendment, and that would, the timeline provided in our grant is December 2026 when that submittal will happen. Go ahead.
It's not. So I have a quick question. So I know you're doing the inland amendment right now, and that's coming forward. Is your plan to migrate over as much of that as you can to the coastal so there's like congruence between the two?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So there's several items, one of which is tiny home, movable tiny home regulations. That's one of the items that certainly will, whatever we adopt inland, we're going to morph that into the coastal regulations. Also discussion on HIP camp or low intensity camping for profit on various properties. That's another model that we think will pull over as well. And then obviously there's some inconsistencies right now in just some of our definitions. So I really want to get to a point where our definitions are more consistent across our 3 different zoning code divisions, because right now each one is just ever so slightly different, it seems like.
It's very frustrating to
administer. Yes. So, so the answer is yes. Any other questions on this page? Okay, great. So I'm going to first talk about, we have 2 grants. So I'm going to first talk about our Round 8 grant award, which is for the comprehensive LCP update. So this was the award of over $2 million in November of 2022. We do have a county match of $200,000 as part of that grant. We executed the agreement in April of 23, and then we have already prepared and selected consultants for 3 of the studies that are required. We do have 1 additional consultant, and that contract is pending, and I'm actually going to slide over to the next slide here just to show you. So we have awarded contracts from February 27th. That's for our coastal groundwater study consultant, Larry Walker Associates. And then also for our State Route 1 traffic and highway capacity study with TJKM Transportation Consultants. our visual and archaeological resources consultant, which is EMC Planning, and then we have a pending contract that is awaiting board approval, which is for our biological resources, habitats and natural resources consultant, and the selected firm was WRA Incorporated. The remaining request for proposal that we're going to complete is for California Environmental Quality Act compliance consultant. And while we do have underneath the CEQA, there is an exemption for when you are preparing local coastal program amendments. The certification process is considered sort of the functional equivalent of going through a CEQA process. However, we are still going to be preparing an environmental document because it will help to inform and demonstrate how the updates to the code are not going to have any significant environmental effects. So we think it'll help to bolster our application with the Coastal Commission for any policies or amended implementation measures that we may have. Any questions on this slide?
I have kind of a strategic question about that because essentially then it just seems a little odd to me because you don't need to do an EIR and MND for an LCP amendment. And so you're creating extra work for yourselves and extra opportunities for the public to if they wanted to bring a lawsuit against the project. And it's just an interesting approach, I guess. It's a comment, not a question. I'm puzzled by it.
Thank you for that comment. And I think we have, we did debate it a bit, but ultimately we did fall to going ahead and preparing that environmental document. One, there is the grant funding to support doing that process. And then additionally, we do feel that it'll provide a lot of helpful background information for us informing our LCP amendment application to the state. And so that at least was our intention behind it. But I comment heard.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. So now I want to talk a little bit about the various studies that we have. And so what was handed out to the commissioners and is also posted online is just the scope of work for these various contracts that we have. So the one that we're going to start with is the Larry Walker and Associates. And I apologize that it was not as well labeled in the commissioner's handouts as it is online, but Larry Walker and Associates, we did provide the scope of work. This is what is contained within the approved contract. So I just wanted to cover some of the highlights. So in that groundwater study work, there's going to be the existing conditions analysis memorandum, and that's also going to include coastal groundwater mapping graphics. Also part of this is going to be essentially a database that's going to be available to the county that has a ton of data points in terms of where we have existing wells, what those levels may be, any monitoring that's happened. So we're excited about this new database that will be available for county staff to be able to utilize, and we've been working really closely with our environmental health department so that way they also have access to this data as well. And it's being set up in a manner that we can add data points to it in the future. So it's not going to be static, it's something that we can amend and adjust over time. So another component, there's going to be various hydraulic model development, including a watershed model, saturated thickness model, recharge model, climate change model, and sea level rise model. So the consultant will be preparing all these various models for the county, and you'll see that that is discussed within the tasks within here and gives a bit more detail under task 3 of what that modeling is. Then there's also going to be land and water use forecasts. So really looking at what we have from land use today and what may be forecasted future development and assisting us with some of the bridging of some of those knowledge gaps that we have. We're also going to have a technical memo prepared as a result of that, and that's underneath task 4. The most exciting one, I think, for folks that do work on the coast is we are going to have updated proof of water testing guidelines and procedures as part of this. The current guidelines are from 1989, and so it's a welcome update. The groundwater study itself is from 1982, so it really is going to be a nice change to have some updated data as well as updated guidelines to really inform how we review development within the coastal zone moving forward and what kind of demonstration of proof of adequate water is required for any development that comes forward.
Question about all of this data being gathered, because this is all the data that many different agencies and water districts wish was available right now for their planning purposes. Will it be publicly available online in like a searchable database, or do you have any idea what the interface will be?
Well, certainly the data, like a updated study, will be publicly available. That will be completely available to the public. The proof of water testing guidelines and procedures also will be available to the public. I think the database that we mentioned with sort of the mapping data, we're still discussing kind of what level of public is available under that, whether or not that's like, you know, it's publicly available, or if there's some hidden layers to that too that are more for use by perhaps the county or any sort of agency that we may work with.
Okay, great. Yeah. I just was, you know, thinking it could be really beneficial, again, across many agencies to have sort of a county water, or, you know, at least for local coastal plan, sort of clearinghouse, you know, like a one-stop shop for all of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So then we also have problem and issue identification. So this is really taking the findings from the hydraulic model development and the land use forecast and identifying locations where there's water supply shortage susceptibility within the study area, and really looking at future climate and development scenarios as part of that. That's going to result in a technical memorandum with some recommendations. And then we have also the development and analysis of alternatives, mitigation measure development and recommendations. Again, this will be a technical memorandum just based upon what is observed throughout the various other tasks that are contributing to the overall update study. And then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No question. No, I'll wait till you.
Okay. And then finally, I want to note that we did have we formed a technical advisory group for this. It's a 5-member group. It's made up of hydrologists, individuals that are stakeholders in the community from the development community, and then also representatives of local water or sewer district as well. So that's 5 members. It's been formed, and we're going to be holding our first kickoff meeting hopefully in the next couple weeks here, since the contract amendment was just approved for that on May 7th at the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, so my question was not really about this slide, but it came to me while this slide was being presented, and you said for us to ask the questions as they came to us. Are you planning on doing any map changes or zoning changes as part of this LCP amendment? And if so, do you have a sense of what those might be?
Thank you for that question. I've been getting that question quite a bit. And I think we did not necessarily envision that we would be doing rezonings as part of this update process, really focusing more on the policy side and then also implementation measures. However, there is some amendments that may be done to allowable uses in certain zoning districts. For example, the fishing village is one of the zoning districts that we're really cognizant of. It doesn't quite fit for what we're seeing is actually needed in the harbor, and it's causing some constraints down there, leaving a lot of empty sort of storefronts. And so I think that looking at some of those sort of allowable uses as part of our scope. We haven't completely ruled out doing some zoning changes if we see some really glaring errors as we go through this, but it's not the primary purpose.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions on the groundwater study? Okay, great. Okay, so moving over to traffic and highway capacity study highlights. So this is the TJKM. You'll see it, it's in the first line there for the scope of work. So where we are right now with TJKM is they're doing the assessment of existing policies, programs, and data. This includes collecting data that we have available at the county, working with the California Department of Transportation, MCOG, our local county Department of Transportation, just collecting all the available data that we have within the county, including past studies that were done for when the LCP was originally formed, any amendments we've made to that over time as well. They will be then basically looking for the land use zone development. So they're going to create traffic analysis zones and development potential for each of those zones. So what that means is they're going to be splitting up essentially the coastal zone into various category areas. So like we have different traffic analysis zones that will have discussion of essentially what are some limitations within those individual areas. So it'll probably have breakpoints that'll be likely major intersections or shortly thereafter is what I picture.
I have another question.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry. I'm such a planner nerd. So I guess I'm just, if you're not rezoning, why open up the traffic bucket of worms?
Thank you for that question. That is, we are opening it up because one of the sticking points when we adopted our accessory dwelling unit regulations was actually Highway 1 capacity. So we were able to work with the commission and agree to allowance for 500 additional accessory dwelling units absent doing a traffic study.
Got it.
So
now
we're
you're
doing the
that.
traffic study so it can inform whether or not that cap can be lifted and maybe just removed entirely or whether or not it needs to remain. We're also what I'll talk about in a little bit here too, one of the items that we're really looking forward to is since the standard has really changed under CEQA from level of service to vehicle miles traveled, we're looking forward to some recommendations coming from them on also potential mitigations that can be utilized where a project may hit a threshold of potential significance under vehicle miles traveled.
Yeah. I think the problem there is that you're confounding CEQA with the Coastal Act, and the Coastal Commission doesn't really care much about CEQA, and they're really only concerned about the rural character of the roads. And so their definition of concern is different. And I guess, you know, take it for what it's worth. I'm just a person who's done a few of these. I would just be concerned about bringing information to the Coastal Commission that might make it so that you have to ratchet down what's possible that's currently allowable with the code the way that it is. You know, I did that horrible LCP amendment at the City of Fort Bragg where we did a complete comprehensive LCP amendment, and they came back with over 800 modifications for our LCP amendment, so I know a little bit about what I speak, and honestly, sometimes opening the door of a conversation is not your best approach. I mean, I just hate to say that, but that's just a concern that I would have.
Well, I appreciate that. I think it's a shared concern, obviously, since our LCP is, it's been out of date for a very long time.
Right.
I think there is a real concern that as we open this up, things could, you know, what could be allowable may condense, and that is a real concern to have. But we still feel like we need to go through that exercise to really inform how we move forward. So, and we will be doing early consultation with the commission, hoping to not have 800 friendly modifications that may come out of any sort of update process or once we submit our LCP.
Yeah, and their friendly modifications are not friendly.
Well,
it's take it or leave it.
Yeah. Well, and often, at least when we did the ADU regulations and went through that LCP update, it opened the door to some really good conversations on how we could find a middle ground, which was really helpful. And then where we thought something was very significant, we would bring it back to the board for discussion. So, yeah. Okay, so I think I left off on the traffic analysis zone. So then also there will be model development, creating a travel demand model within the coastal zone. Land use forecasts, traffic forecasts, again, problem and issue identification. So really looking at areas where we may have concerns over capacity or any sort of safety concerns, and development of analysis of alternatives, including the discussion on vehicle miles traveled. And that is not necessarily a component that has to be part to inform the LCP update, but I think it'll be helpful to staff and the practitioner side of being able to work through when we hit you know, something that requires an initial study, and being able to work through the level of significance of those impacts.
Question about that travel model. Is that a tool that will be utilized by staff and decision makers when it comes to proposed projects?
That is the goal, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
I also think that MCOG has already done a travel model for Mendocino County, so there might be some savings there.
Absolutely, yeah, and our consultant is going to work closely with them too. TJKM actually has done a lot of studies in our county already, which I think is really helpful. They have a lot of background data already. So, okay, and then finally, a mitigation measure development and recommendations. So just really looking at where we may have capacity limits, problems, or issues, any sort of recommendations that they may have. So we're excited about doing this update study too. It's been a long time coming. So, any other questions on the traffic? So moving on to visual and archaeological resources study. So this is again with EMC Planning Group. You'll see that in the first line of the scope of work. And this right now, we're still also in this sort of background stage just because we're in the early stages of the contract. So right now they're doing review of the county LCP Coastal Commission guidance, the mapping that we have available as part of our certified LCP, and then also they actually were up here at the end of last month doing site views up and down the coast to really get eyes on and see what our community is like. Some of them have been up here before, and so it was nice. Staff actually met them out on the coast and got to tour a couple areas with them and really talk about some of our highly scenic areas, conditionally highly scenic areas, and also tree removal areas that are currently designated on our LCP maps. So they will then be conducting stakeholder outreach that includes to some of our state agencies, federal agencies, and then also local agencies as well. And then also conducting tribal consultation, which will be great. They have a good model developed for doing their tribal consultation. So I think that'll be really helpful to get that input early on. They will be preparing a visual resources analysis report, which would be provided to the county. They'll also be providing visual analysis mapping and graphics to the county, which will help to inform any changes that we may propose to designated highly scenic areas or conditionally highly scenic areas and or tree removal areas within the coastal zone. They will also be conducting a cultural and archaeological resource analysis, and we're looking forward to seeing what comes out of that. And it may be that that's a very confidential report that likely will not be able to be released, but we think it'll help to really inform some of the policy development that we make in regards to archaeological resources. They will also be providing mitigation measure development and recommendations, as well as LCP policy recommendations. So they will review our existing policies and then provide recommendations to either amend those or possibly add new policies as well. County staff would actually do the drafting of the implementation measures, so the zoning regulations for it, but really looking at high-level policy development coming from the consultant. So, any questions on that? So I'm just noting here sort of where we're at with each of these consultants. We had our kickoff meeting with EMC Planning in March, the site visits they made at the end of April, as I mentioned, and we hold check-in meetings on an as-needed basis. We actually have a meeting coming up on Monday. We also held our kickoff meeting with Larry Walker and Associates at the end of March. We hold check-in meetings monthly and then also have other specific task meetings on an as-needed basis, and soon we will be adding in technical advisory group meetings as well, which county staff will be coordinating those, but Larry Walker and Associates will be providing support as well. Then we had our kickoff meeting with TJKM at the beginning of April, and we hold check-in meetings monthly, and then also, again, any specific task meetings are held on an as-needed basis. But since we're in a lot of the background information gathering right now, they're doing a lot of work in-house, and it hasn't, other than us providing documentation, there hasn't been too much for county staff input at this point. So the next steps is obviously we're going to continue working with our various consultants on gathering that background information for the existing conditions work that they're doing. We will be obtaining the executed contract with WRA for the biological resources, habitats, and natural resources work, and then completing the RFP for the CEQA consultant. And then I make a couple little plugs here. If you want to get involved, right now we are seeking volunteers in the coastal area. If you have a well and feel that you have the capacity to monitor that over the next year in terms of the water level, please contact myself. It's crogj@mendocinocounty.gov. And we'll get you set up with the consultant. They send over a kit that can be utilized. It's a very simple kit, so you can monitor your well level, and we ask that that data be provided quarterly back to us over the next year, just to start building more of a local model on how water levels fluctuate throughout the year. And then if you wish to be placed on the interested parties list, we have a dedicated LCP update email address, lcpupdate@mendocinocounty.gov. and you can simply email there and ask to be placed on the interested parties list, and you'll be notified of any activities, presentations like today, of what may be happening with the LCP update. So now we'll talk about our rolling grant award. This is the second award that we got, and this is for the Sea Level Rise Vulnerability Assessment. So we received the award of $342,000 in August of 2023. The grant agreement was executed in January of 24. And we have our request for proposal is currently released, and it's still open. It opened on April 23rd, and it closes on May 23rd. And I did provide a link in here if folks want to review that RFP and the scope of work that's included under there. And once it closes, we are working really closely with the city of Fort Bragg as part of this analysis, because they also have a grant from the Coastal Commission and are going to be doing some sea level rise analysis work in the harbor. So our grants are complementary to one another, and as a result, we're really trying to stay very well coordinated and making sure we're not duplicating work in any capacity. We will also be having staff from both the city and the county be reviewing the RFPs for each jurisdiction, so that way we're all on the same page too. And we do have one addendum that's been released answering a few questions on our RFP, but otherwise we're set to close on May 23rd. Any questions on the sea level rise?
What do you see being the primary deliverable on that project?
Oh, the primary deliverable. Absolutely. So what we're going to have out of this, we're going to have a sea level rise analysis and risk assessment memo, a final one that's going to be provided. We will also be submitting a local coastal program amendment to include these baseline policies that the Coastal Commission, there's been a working group that has created some baseline policy recommendations. So we'll be doing an update to our LCP to add those baseline conditions and then anything additional that the consultant may recommend to us as well. And then we will also be having potentially new policies drafted for inclusion in the comprehensive update. So this grant is another study that's informing the comprehensive update. So the timeline is quite a bit shorter on this grant because this work needs to be completed to inform some of the policy development under the comprehensive LCP. There's going to be stakeholder engagement, some workshops. We're also going to potentially be looking at if there's any sort of mitigations that may be able to be provided or recommendations from the consultant of areas that perhaps need some further analysis, or if there's any projects that they might recommend be undertaken just to make the community more resilient to potential sea level rise in the future. So that's some of the goals. A sea level rise resiliency strategy. So
that's great. That's great. Thank you. And will you keep the commission updated on which consultant gets that contract?
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, and so that's all I have for you. So I just included here again those two different email addresses. If you have a well and you feel that you can monitor that over the next year, please contact myself. And if you want to be on the interested parties list, I've provided that LCP update email address. So thank you. Any further questions for me?
It's ambitious. Good luck.
Thank you.
On top of the inland.
Thank you. Well, hopefully inland will be wrapped up here shortly, and then we can really dedicate our time towards this. But what you'll be hearing from me and what has been heard, I think, by the public at certainly board meetings is that this is a huge undertaking for the department. It really is going to be all hands on deck when we hit having the completed technical studies, and we're working on policy development and stakeholder outreach. So more and more you're going to be hearing, we don't have capacity to take on additional projects because this is such a significant undertaking and really important for the community. The fact that this hasn't been updated in nearly 30 years since it was originally certified, it's long overdue and a really necessary task. So hopefully the public is supportive of really dedicating our time and energy towards this. Thank you.
And I would also just say I'm super supportive of you doing the regulations and some of the policy work in-house, because no consultant is going to be able to do as good a job as you guys do.
Well, we're excited to do it as
Yeah.
well. I know I already have my list of my pet peeves within the coastal code of things I want to have cleaned up. So,
Exactly.
yeah, great.
Thank you very much, Director Krog. I'll now open this for public comment. When called to speak, please state your name for the record. Public comment is Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Speakers are asked to please address their comments to the meeting chair and refrain from using profanity or engaging in conversation with members of the audience or the staff. Do we have any members of public on Zoom who wish to speak?
We have a few hand raised. First, we have Michael St. John.
Mr. St. John, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, we can hear you. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. This is not so much a comment as a question. Marie Jones asked a while ago about zoning changes, and that's my interest too. It seems to me and others that there needs to be an update of the zoning code, and I'm understanding that that's not planned as part of this project, and it's my understanding that these studies are kind of preliminary to that. But what I haven't heard is that there actually is a plan for updating the zoning in the county. I happen to live in Casper. Anyway, Casper needs some update to its zoning, in my opinion. And I just haven't heard when or if that's on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. St. John.
Sure.
Director Krog, would you like to respond to that briefly?
Sure, I absolutely can. So we are, I think I heard two different things in that public comment. So we are updating the zoning code itself, but what we were discussing with Commissioner Jones was not necessarily an intention to update how property is zoned within the county, the zoning designations that are applied to various properties. We may, if we see some really glaring errors, still pursue some of those amendments, but as it is right now, that's not one of the primary focuses of this grant. This grant is really to, it's one, to address climate change and really to update our LCP policies as well as the implementation measures. It may be that we come back at a future date to do an update to the actual zoning layouts that we have throughout the community. But as it is right now, that's not necessarily one of our key components within this grant.
Just to speak directly to the member of the public's question, is there any timeline or plan on when and if those zoning maps would be addressed?
It would be after certification of the current, the comprehensive update. So I would picture that would be after sometime in 2027. If we get action by the commission within a year after submitting our amendment application.
Thank you. All right. Who's next, Madam Clerk?
Next, we have Katie Pence.
All right. Ms. Pence, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Katie Pence. I live on the South Coast in Gualala, and I'm also discussing a little bit of the zoning issues that were just brought up as well. One of the things I'm curious about is that in the original Coastal Act, it talks about that we understand that we've zoned only larger parcels for farming and agriculture use because at the time we determined that this is the only financially viable method of having agriculture on the coastal areas of Mendocino. And if this changes in the future, this needs to be readdressed with the Coastal Commission. At this point, we don't really have large parcel agriculture on the coast that is very viable. We have Stornetta lands or the Stornetta farm. And other than that, most of the other larger dairies and the larger cow-calf operations have gone by the wayside. And all the operations that are happening that are, funneling into our farmers markets are all small operations. And yet they get no benefit from either tax breaks or any kind of financial Small Farm Act issues. And mostly because they're not zoned agricultural, any of the small, and part of that is a soils analysis, which like when you actually question about the zoning, they'll go, oh, your soil doesn't, isn't, doesn't count as an agricultural soil. And I said, well, my soils have now changed from where they were because I've been amending them for the last 20 years. So what happens with small farms is you can be changing your soils and actually still qualify to be an agriculturally zoned area. And I think that this is something that would really, I'd like to see addressed in this LCP amendment. And also, we're seriously needing a new like economic development thing to happen on the South Coast, especially. And farming would really help our area. I think, maybe make a really nice, restaurant, local food, kind of attraction here. And then the second thing is that the sorry, the ADU law has really on the coast has restricted the ability because of the clause that was put in that you have to into future never have any vacation rental on your property. You're taking one of the major zoning uses of this area out of your function, which basically is such a lack of incentive to put an ADU on your property. I would really like this to be looked at during this LCP as well. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Pence. Dr. Krug, do you want to respond to any of the comments?
Certainly I can. I think the soil survey is typically what we work off of, which hasn't been updated in quite a long time, but it's not actually the county who typically updates that. So that may be something that other state agencies may look into updating that future, but we are going to be looking at allowable uses in various zoning districts. But what will not be addressed as part of this, although I do know we will be coming forward with some amendments in the future to our policies and procedures regarding agricultural preserves and Williamson Act contracted lands, but we will not be addressing that as part of the LCP update. That document lives separate and independent from the LCP, but we'll be looking at that at a future date as well. So, and then regarding the ADUs, I understand the concern from the public. That was unfortunately a measure that was a modification by the California Coastal Commission in order to certify the LCP. So there may be the ability for, if we have some modifications to those policies, that perhaps they'd consider allowing that restriction to be removed. But certainly it's going to be a bit more challenging given that that was something that was required by the California Coastal Commission to certify our local coastal program amendment for accessory dwelling units.
Thank you. All right, who's next?
Next we have Peter McNimmy.
Peter, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to this. I am a volunteer with an organization called the Grassroots Institute, and we've been tracking the LCP update process now for 3 years, and want to congratulate the county, the Planning and Business Services Department for taking the leadership to update the LCP. I have specifically a couple of comments that I wanted to pass on that have come out of a whole series of meetings that we've been holding over that last 3-year period, many on Zoom. And I want to just give you a sense of the kind of citizen interest and concern about this. Our Zoom sessions on the LCP update process have usually averaged about 50 people. All along Mendocino's coast. In some occasions, the number of people have exceeded 80 participants on those Zoom sessions. I would say our low is about 35 or 40. So you can see that there is a considerable amount of interest in this. So a couple of points I want to communicate to the commission. One is a big part of what's happening right now is a multi-level, multi-agency effort. So not only is the county doing an LCP update, but both the city of Fort Bragg and Puerto Rita are doing LCP updates. In addition to that, MCOG has now announced that they're going to be doing traffic studies targeted at the same kinds of issues that are going to be addressed in the LCP update, and that their studies on the traffic in the harbor, Noyo Harbor, are going to inform the LCP update process. And they're also looking at a Highway 1 traffic study in terms of the sea level rise and its disruption there. I'd also encourage people to think about this, not in the context of a one-time only LCPD update process among all of those agencies, but to consider that the Coastal Commission in particular and the state now recognizes that we're in a period of dynamic change on our coastline. And so what they're planning to do is to focus on a rolling, ongoing process over decades, where updates would be done much more frequently in order to accommodate the kinds of changes that we're seeing from climate change and sea level rise and the secondary and tertiary impacts in terms of climate migration. So with that, I've used up my time, but I do appreciate what you're doing and know that the Grassroots Institute hopes to be a partner in encouraging citizen engagement all along this process over the next 2 years and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who's next?
Next, we have Amy Nguyen.
Ms. Nguyen, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much. I was trying to get to the back of the line. I'm surprised we only have 3 comments so far. Thank you very much for hearing my comments, commissioners and staff. So I have 5 items that I want to raise awareness for as we're going through this process, or raise awareness early on. For the visual resources component, it'll be important to provide some guidance for how to address tree removal when we're in areas where we have rare plant communities designated as ESHA. Also, relative to visual resources in highly scenic areas, it will be helpful to have some guidance for, or rather to have some easier ability to increase heights of proposed structures in order to avoid rather impacts to ESHA. As you know, plant community ESHAs are all over the place on the coast, and it's, the homes are getting quite small. Also relative, there's a tiering off of that relative to biology. Something that we've started really paying attention to is kind of obvious, but the rural residential intent includes small scale ag as a residential scale. But again, environmentally sensitive habitat area, we're realizing it's preventing property owners from being able to do anything more than develop their single family residence with their garage, septic, well, driveway, etc. There really isn't any room left when we have parcels constrained by ESHA, of which there are many. And we're recognizing that being able to have small scale residential ag, like your vegetable garden and maybe some small horticulture or an outdoor live space, that's not being, that we can't do that. So to keep in mind that capacity for being able to have our own little vegetable gardens when we're constrained by ESHA. Relative to ADUs, really looking forward to the possibility of maybe tweaking a little bit of those regs here and there. I understand the friendly amendments by the commission, and I appreciate Director Krog's thinking that maybe there might be some things we could address. Caltrans, when it comes to transportation, we're going to need to have some work with Caltrans to make sure that existing lots of record that are otherwise buildable for principally permitted uses are able to get their encroachment permits for driveways without, in an affordable manner. So that'll be working closely with Caltrans on that. And then of course, and I'm sorry for speaking out of order earlier, but wildfire resilience and energy independence, we might need to address those sooner rather than later if the Coastal Commission's friendly modifications drag this process on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That is it for our public speakers on Zoom.
Okay. Thank you. All right then. Any final remarks from staff?
Not at all, thank you.
Any final remarks from the commission?
I had just a weird question. And through this LCP amendment process, do you envision bringing CDPs forward to the Planning Commission or keeping them as an administrative division?
I believe we still intended to keep those as with the coastal permit administrator, but that's certainly something that we can discuss. Yeah.
One of the things I've noticed, for whatever reason, the Coastal Commission is very drilled into your CDP staff reports in a way that they have never drilled into Fort Bragg's CDP process. And I find it fascinating. Like, they literally almost comment on every permit. I think in the 13 years that I was community development director, they might have commented on 3 permits. It's very weird.
Yeah, I will say that this isn't new to, at least in my time with the county. The last 10 years, the commission has been very active in their review and comment on local county actions. So it's not unusual for us.
So do they appeal them from you at all, ever?
They have, yes. We have actually a couple appeals that are pending right now.
Where the commission is appealing rather than a local person.
Yes, there is at least an appeal pending right now for 2 coastal development permits that the commission appealed.
I'm sorry for you.
Thank you. And then there is one appeal that was done by a member of the public, which the commission is reviewing right now, which is for the use permit that this commission reviewed for the Mendocino Unified School District.
I wonder if once the LCP is updated and they're happy with it, if they'll pull back their tentacles a bit, or if they'll micromanaging.
Remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe you can get on the Coastal Commission.
There we go.
Yeah, all right. All right, well, if that's all for this item, I'm going to close that. Thank you very much for that presentation, very helpful. All right, agenda item number 7, matters from staff. Any additional items from staff today?
Nothing else today, thank you.
Thank you. Matters from the commission. Any matters from the
I have one suggestion, and that is just, I don't mean to be a whiner, but it is a 3-hour drive from Fort Bragg over to here and back again. Very windy, and it takes the steam out of my day. And I'm currently doing all of the current planning for the city of Fort Bragg and the city of Point Arena, so I'm super busy. And I would love it if we could try and really consolidate meetings so that we have at least 2 agenda items. And one of the things maybe to have is that as an agenda topic at a future commission meeting. Maybe we could go to once a month. I think it would free your guys' schedule up. I'd rather come here for a 5-hour meeting than come twice a month for a 1 or 2 hour meeting, just in terms of efficiency and drive time. I just want to toss that out there into the ring and see what anybody else thinks about it. And I don't know if we can discuss it now, but maybe have it on the agenda for future discussion.
I think we could agendize that for discussion in the future. Thank you.
Yes, sorry, I couldn't get my mute button done fast enough. I was going to say, yes, we can agendize that for a future meeting.
Great. Any other items from the commission?
I just wanted to let the commissioners and staff know about my June schedule. My June 6th availability is iffy, and I am not able to attend the meeting on the 20th. I'll be on vacation.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Well then, if there's nothing else from the commission, I will move on to agenda item number 9, adjournment. I'll invite a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Do we have a second?
Second. I thought it was just an I thing.
All in favor? Aye. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.